Alright, just gonna wait on whoever wants to turn up. Wants to turnip. Should be showing everything or not. Alright, there, that's better. Oh boy. I'll just be waiting for people to pop on in, pop on in, pop on in. Okay. For starters, let's just, I guess, review. Choice of Robots is a choose-your-own adventure game. Oh, I turned it for this radish. For this oh. Thanks, Tuttle. Hi, Tuttle. Good joke. Alright, fine. It was, well... You tried. Alright, well... We've got here 26-year-old Melvin Tuttlemaid. Nationally famous but broke. Bitey Spaghetti is pretty autonomous and pretty empathetic. AG, Josh, Mark, and Tammy all like us to some extent, which is... Tammy's a little weird, but whatever. And Professor Ziegler still hates us. And last, we have started a business called the Spaghetti Factory. And, yeah. We got it. So I'm going to just wait, because it looks like we have 2 viewers, which is fine. Although I think I'm one of them. Well, you know what? Their loss. I've been waiting. Let's go ahead and return to this game. It's a year later, and you find yourself on a flight to your first meeting with a big client. You're 26 years old, and the year is 2021. The past year has been the past year has been one of it's probably supposed to be one of many hard lessons for your business, and you've often found yourself wondering if you would have made the same mistakes if you had learned to run a business from Josh. Regardless, you hope to prove to yourself that you've overcome your lack of experience by landing this big deal. In the aisle seat, AG's fiddling with 3D models of Bitey Spaghetti on his tablet computer. So who's your big client? Is it Spark Incorporated, the maker of flying cars? Rudolph Ventures, a shipping company working the newly melted North Pole? Galen Medical, a company specializing in surgical equipment? Or a man in Shanghai who wants to negotiate the import of 10,000 robots? Who could our big backer be? Who did we land? Who did we land? Yeah, no, I'm pretty against the flying cars too. And since you're the only one in chat, I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. I agree. How did you fund your company? Some small companies are run entirely out of pocket, but even small, unforeseen expenses can cause such companies to go out of business. Independently wealthy entrepreneurs like this option because they get to keep all of the profit and grow still wealthier. But most companies choose to either take out loans, which requires the loans paying back the loans eventually, or selling shares in the company to venture capitalist backers, which reduces the potential profit but spreads the risk among your investors. We do not have any wealth, so we cannot finance the company out of our own pocket. So, do we take a big loan to start the spaghetti factory? Or do we finance the company by selling shares of it? Once again, Tuttle, I agree. Your loan is large enough that you could build a factory later on, plus 4 wealth. But the bank wants to see a contract with a big client soon to confirm that your business plan is sound, or it will come to collect early. You open your laptop and open up your own presentation slides. The diagram showing the latest model of Bitey Spaghetti doesn't have anything to give the audience a sense of his current scale. To give the audience a sense of size, you drop in a picture of a hobbit. Bitey Spaghetti hasn't changed in size since I built him. Bill Gates, Bitey Spaghetti is the size of a human now, so that models of his type are better equipped to perform human tasks, or a Rancor monster so big he couldn't fit on the plane. So, how big is our boy Bitey Spaghetti? Did we changed anything in the last year? Well, no, Billiam is Billiam's just for the comparison. He will not look like him. He'll still look like Bitey Spaghetti, just taller. You celebrated Bitey Spaghetti's first birthday with a new body the size of a human, average human mother. Bitey Spaghetti has since appeared to take more responsibility to think for himself, and appears more fearless, plus autonomy, plus military. However, you sometimes miss how cute he was when he was a little thing, minus empathy. He's also a little bit less steady when he crawls, minus grace. Alright, I have 2 proposed improvements on Bitey Spaghetti's design for you, AG says. Which one do you think we should go for with this presentation? AG's hands you the tablet computer he's been fiddling with. Side by side, there are 2 3D models that you can rotate and zoom with your fingers. One is sleek and has an Apple-style look to it. Your prototype's hacked together wooden parts have been replaced with a smooth white plastic shell, reminding you of Eve from WALL-E. The joints remind you of an armadillo shell. The other design is somewhat more startling, because it's a model of a smiling man. You uncheck the ticky box for the skin layer to reveal Bitey Spaghetti's original wooden frame along with AG's annotations for where the fake skin would be attached. When you drag the view below the waist, however, you realize AG has made no attempt to change Bitey Spaghetti's 8-legged parts, and the resulting hybrid form takes a little getting used to. You're impressed. Both forms are remarkable in their own right, and they also appear to be sound from an engineering point of view. Wow, you say. Sorry it's the last minute, said the AG, but they're done before the meeting, like I promised. Let's go with the first design, the sleek one. The second design, the human-like one. Let's do the second design, but we may as well go all the way and give the robot human legs, or, sorry, AG, I like Bitey Spaghetti the way he is. Yeah, I know. I feel like there's... I kind of... I mean, Ugh, making him human, but also having 8 legs is weird. But I don't know if we want to give him human legs, because then it's not really Bitey Spaghetti anymore, is it? Yes, but we don't have to make him look human at all. Exactly. Yeah, like we don't have to do the human like one. We could do the sleek one, or we could leave Bitey Spaghetti the way he is, even if maybe people won't be willing to invest in him. I personally feel like we have to do 1 or 4. Good point. He has earned it. He's a very good boy. The ghost of Steve Jobs is giving the thumbs up for this one, you say, pointing to the white streamlined design. Thanks, AG says. I was going for an Apple-like look, but they never really had to deal with human joints. I hope they don't look too weird. They look great, you say, and you mean it. +3 grace. AG grabs a few screen captures of the 3D model and sends them to you via local wireless so that you can update your presentation with them. The success of your presentation now seems even more urgent now that you can see the amazing improvements you could make to Bitey Spaghetti if you had the cash. There, you say, and you turn to AG to get his opinions about a slide layout, but he is asleep. So you take a nap. You find yourself in the lobby of Galen Medical waiting for an audience with the Vice President of Engineering. The stylized caduceus behind the lobby's marble waterfall has an Art Deco look to it. It's the sort of caduceus a captain of the industry would approve of. Bitey Spaghetti crawls back and forth nervously. I'm sorry again about having to check you, Bitey Spaghetti, you say. There's just no good alternative to flying for business travel. If I were truly an explosive device, I fail to see how putting me with the luggage would rectify the situation, Bitey Spaghetti grouses. I think the guard was more afraid you might try to take over the plane, you say. And what would the problem be? I'm sure I'm smarter than the autopilot, Bitey Spaghetti says. And AG shakes his head. The double doors to the Vice President of Engineering's office open, but instead of the Vice President of Engineering herself, it is a blonde hairband in a black pea coat. We'll have some results for you by Saturday, he calls back into the Vice President of Engineering's office. We can discuss them after the barbecue. I assure you, you won't be disappointed by either the results or the meat. Without missing a beat, he walks up to you and introduces himself. Oh, hell yeah. I like that idea, Tuttle. Dennis Clark, Luminoso LLC, he says. We do text analytics and machine learning for medium-sized data. If you ever find yourself looking for new market opportunities, give me a ring. Your first sentiment analysis comes with a free barbecue. Come for the dimensionality reduction. Stay for the delicious meat. He offers his smartphone to you in the buy now universal gesture for sharing digital business cards. You examine his card on your phone. Dennis Clark, co-founder Luminoso LLC, Vericon charity auction winner of Cameo in Choice of Robots. A little meta humor there. What kind of machine learning do you do? Got any tips? Hey, do you have any advice for a startup? You seem to be a smart guy. What's the secret to cooking delicious meat? What does our idiot boy Melvin say? Yeah, good point. he would Melvin would never be able to come up with a response so human that it might have anything to do with someone else's interests. Yeah, that does seem most Melvin, don't it? Uh, well, we started out doing simple dimensionality reduction with singular value decomposition, but we've since moved on to manifold learning with varieties. You find it somewhat difficult to follow his very abstract exposition of his machine learning methods. As a computer scientist, you tend to think of things in code, and he is clearly thinking in abstract operations of the kind covered in those dense mathematic text with plain yellow covers. But Bitey Spaghetti does the job of asking questions for you. And by the end, not only have you learned a variety of vocabulary in higher mathematics, but Bitey Spaghetti is nodding his head and saying, "Oh, so next time I need to solve a complex control problem, I only need to project the problem onto a lower dimensional manifold and solve the variety there." More or less, yes. Dennis says with a nod. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go call my wife and discuss how we're going to solve the world's economic problems, or at least solve what's wrong with economics." Dennis departs. Hey, I've helped with that charity auction. I've helped with that charity auction, AG says, looking over your shoulder at the digital card. They raise money for a lot of good causes. And, auction off some really unique stuff. He looks after Dennis speculatively. But what's choice of robots, I wonder? Wink. "The vice president of engineering will see you now," the receptionist says. The vice president of engineering of Galen is an old woman who claims that PowerPoint is rotting the brains of executives everywhere and insists on reading something printed out. You hand her your business plan, and she dons her old horn-rimmed glasses to read it. When she gets to your revenue section, she chuckles a little. "I will let you in on a little tip," she says, "because you're young and cute, and because I'm retiring in 2 weeks." "Yes?" "We're going to turn around and sell these for 100 times what you're charging here, so you may as well charge us more." You're a little stunned as you work out the implications. "You're going to charge $100 million a robot?" "And that's cheap," she says lightly. "Medical equipment is expensive. If you've been selling robots for any less, you probably didn't get buyers because they thought it was junk and mentally added the price of a lawsuit." When she studied your stunned expression, she adds, "Oh, I could sit here and talk for hours about the economics of this business, about how the economics of this business is broken because of insurance and Medicare and so forth. But that's not really what you're here for, is it?" AG gives you a look, askance. "I think what we're here for is changing the world, ma'am. This technology would have more impact if it were available to more people around the world." "Will you raise your prices to what the vice president of engineering suggests?" "Hell yes! Let's be rich!" Let's get Galen to agree to sell the robots to hospitals at a more affordable price, or wait, she said her price was on the cheap side. Let's increase the prices further." It's kind of tough. Kind of tough. What would idiot Melvin do? I'm glad we agree that Melvin's an idiot, but are you suggesting he has ideals enough that we would push for 2? Yeah, if there was a middle road kind of deal, he'd like try to, yeah, he'd try to find the answer in the center. Absolutely. So, I guess we're going to try to be we're going to try to be good people. Try to convince them that they could help. We have no leverage, but we do have morality on our side. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, you're absolutely right. Bitey would never forgive us if we were so nasty as to exploit both him and the world. Word. I'm in this to change the world, not to maximize my profit, you say. I'd rather Galen agree to lower its prices. The vice president of engineering looks appreciative. I thought there wasn't anyone like you left in this industry. I can sign a contract like that, but there's too much risk to put cash up front. We'll do it, AJ says, nodding to you. You can tell you've earned his respect with this transaction. You negotiate it to a price that will be fair to the public on the condition that you will only see revenue once the bots start selling. With a deal in hand, you can now build a robot factory. Where do you plan to build your factory? Detroit, Michigan. I see a bunch of listings for factories dirt cheap, and they probably have a good labor pool for manufacturing. Uh, oh dear. Shenzhen District, China, a common location for tech company outsourcing with cheap but skilled labor. Silicon Valley, I'll withstand the real estate sticker shock to have access to the most skilled engineers. Or Alaska, which is offering incentives to businesses willing to relocate to the coast near the newly melted Arctic Sea. I mean, I know what I'd choose. I don't think we bought a huh. No, I think what we did was we went with I think what we did was we went with a battery. No, no, no. We went with the biodiesel battery. Never mind. No, I don't think we did. That was an option, but I don't think we actually did that. Yeah, his ideals extend in general to the business. He's just an idiot about like social things and well, yeah. Hmm. You know, I think Melvin Tuttlemate is gonna bring some jobs to Detroit. You fly to Detroit with AG. You have a long chat with AG in which you talk about future plans for the spaghetti factory, as well as your personal lives. I could see myself retiring early if we do well, AG says. I don't think I need much money to live on. Of course, it would be nice to have all the money that Bill and Melinda Gates have to give to charitable causes, but I don't want to keep putting off giving what back to the world. You're glad you can talk to AG about such things. Life's big decisions seem a little less scary when you don't have to face them alone. Tuttle, look. There was always a possibility that we were going to be making Jogabots, okay? Dark clouds from the Great Lakes have rolled in over the city, adding a forbidding air of the to the dead hulks of factories that grace the skyline. Driving your rental car through the manufacturing district, you see broken windows, graffiti, and burned and abandoned buildings galore. My God, AG says. The first signs of life you see are near the Social Services Center, which seem to have become a de facto hangout for much of this neighborhood. In the parking lot, you see a few tents, some old ladies playing bridge on a card table, and some guys playing a pickup game of basketball. Finally, you arrive at your destination, an old factory once inhabited by a Big Three automaker that spans several blocks. Wink, wink. You drive for a while to get around the barbed wire covered wall before meeting the real estate agent at the locked front gates. Got a great deal here, she says. This place hardly costs more than my place in Ann Arbor. Inside the factory is surprisingly modern and intact. Not just the assembly lines, but the robot arms that assembled the cars and the giant welding machines and the crucibles where molten steel was shaped into parts. Some enterprising thieves appear to have made off with the easily transported parts. You see places where computer monitors clearly used to be, but much of this was apparently too expensive to move, too old, and too specialized to auction. But you can find uses for this stuff. It will do nicely, aside from the depressing neighborhood. You can easily imagine robots rolling off the assembly line. Plus, 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 wealth. So should I let the community know you'll be hiring soon? Your guide asks meaningfully as taking away the contract. What kind of labor do you hire? Bitey Spaghetti's model robot will perform all the labor, including supervision. Robots with human supervisors, human labor at market rates, rather low in this economy. Following Henry Ford's model, I will hire human workers and pay them handsomely. And then I'll inspire a new Holocaust. Now, here's a place where his ideals would definitely clash with his stupidity. Because he might be like, oh, it'd be so cool to have the robots making themselves. Ugh. All right. So are we going to pay them well? Or are we going to pay them market rates? Ignoring the lie here. We definitely saved some money by you know, coming here, but might be good to keep on building up enough so that the bank won't come along and completely ruin us. Who can say? So we're gonna pay the humans very well. Alright. Of course, you say. In fact, spread the word that we're hiring at 20% premium on local wages. Eiji nods and smiles with approval. Excellent, the guide says. I'll be sure to tell my friends. -3 wealth. Your factory requires a fair amount of work to make it suitable for the spaghetti factory, and you find yourself needing to come in daily to examine wiring issues, fix small problems in the design of the machinery, and get ready to pass inspection. You find it necessary to rent a place in Detroit, and you stay there most nights. You find yourself spending long hours every day getting the factory ready, dealing with inspectors, government officials, banks, and balance sheets make you more than a little cranky. You find yourself wishing you had the benefit of Josh's experience as CEO. Eiji is a huge help with mechanical and electrical work, and he also displays a keen sense of how people will use this place. He points out places where human cues in the lunchroom would cross and cause chaos, places where it would be too easy for someone to get a hand caught in machinery, and places where the lighting would be too dark for supervisors to notice mistakes in the product. You think your robots will be more reliable as a result of his insights, plus grace. What will your factory look like from a distance? Like the Sydney Opera House, full of organic curves and class. A geodesic dome will conceal a powerful dish antenna, absorbing the world's information for my robots. A plain old factory. Nothing much to look at, but it's cheap, and it gets the job done. So it looks like a plain old factory because it's the spaghetti factory. You go for a frugal, plain brick factory of the kind that can be found in any city's industrial district. Your scrimping on costs leaves you with a surplus, +2 wealth. While your factory is being constructed, you personally review all of the applications for technical positions. You know that Tammy, the somewhat unstable person whom emailed you after Mark's article came out, has submitted a resume. Although her resume appears to have all the right technical buzzwords for making robots under the skills section, there are no activities at all listed under the last several places of employment, all federal labs or contractors. Perhaps this is explained by the clearance TSSCI in bold at the top of the page, which, according to the internet, stands for Top Secret Secure Compartmented Information. Will you hire her? I'll give her an interview to see if she has the technical chops, or, no, that would be awkward. Do we want to interview the creepy stalker lady from a year ago? Alright, we'll give her a chance. You pay to fly Tammy to Detroit. Tammy seems very nervous when you greet her at the factory gate. You have no desk yet, so you conduct the interview walking around the facilities. Suppose I'm trying to place factories in such a way as to maximize profit. That's a linear programming problem, Tammy blurts. Good, you say, but suppose my cost function isn't linear. Stochastic optimization or gradient descent. These are pretty good answers, albeit not the one you had in mind. Then again, you're pretty much just winging it when it comes to deciding on what to ask. You really have little idea of how an interview ought to be conducted, having never been in one yourself. You wonder if other people who conduct interviews are pretty much just winging it too. Tammy knows a lot about the basics of machine learning, optimization, and robotics, but when you drill down to specifics, she often doesn't know. Or you have exchanges like this. Is there any other skill set you have that I ought to know about? Tammy gives you an anguished, guilty look. I can't tell you about it. At the end of the day, you say goodbye to Tammy, and as a stalling tactic, you say you'll make a decision in a few days. What's your decision? Okay, sure, I'll hire her, or too many unknowns, and she weirds me out personally. I'll pass. She didn't interview very well. But we also gave a shit interview. No, it really doesn't. Hmm. Hell yeah, marble time! Marble time! Alright, let's make, I've got green and yellow. Let's make green, higher, and yellow pass. Yeah! And it's green! I guess we're hiring her. The marble said so. You give Tammy a call and let her know she's hired. She gives a slightly shrill laugh. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you! I love you! She blurts suddenly. I love you too. I know, or let's keep it professional, shall we? Yeah, Melvin would super say, I know. He even might accidentally say one because he thinks he's talking to his mom. What? Yeah, I think he might say two. I think Melvin Tuttlemade would say two. You, Hans, soloed me. She laughs nervously, and the conversation limps to a close. Soon you have hired a handful of full-time technical employees from the area, and they help with the setup of the factory. They seem relatively pleased to be working for you, and one of them fixes a problem with Bitey Spaghetti's joints for free. Plus grace. Finally, months after you're moved in, you are ready to pull the switch that starts the factory in motion as your workers, AG, Mark, Bitey Spaghetti, and various invited members of the press look on. Raw wooden lumps start their way down a conveyor belt where giant buzzsaw arms lie in wait. Wood chips fly from the lumps and saw loudly buzz away at the material to reveal a cubical head. Another machine drills 2 large holes for the robot's cameras. The next machine pulls the hollow robot head onto its side, and the robot arm delicately places the multi-blade hard drive inside. A long line of wooden legs rolls in from another part of the factory, meeting a conveyor belt of T-Rex arms. A fourth conveyor belt supplies the pieces of white plastic shell for AG's redesigned exterior, with each set arranged in humanoid form like a strange exoskeleton. The 4 tributaries of parts meet at the center of the factory, where humanoid robot workers perform the complex tasks of assembling the parts of the final robots. This final assembly line requires a great deal of careful manipulation for each part, the adjustments, I feel like it didn't... This might have, we might have accidentally ended up with human supervisors, because, it might be a little bug in the game. Alright, for this particular run, they call a halt after the first robot rolls off the line so that you can celebrate. AG's graceful redesign looks beautiful. The robot stands before you, looks like Bitey Spaghetti, but sleeker and more beautiful in every way. Your employees have clearly poured their heart into the design, inspired by your leadership, +2 grace. Your staff cheers. AG hugs you. Mark smiles as he furiously takes down notes on his Chromebook, though you can't tell whether he's pleased with your work or his. Plus fame. I have brothers and sisters, Bitey Spaghetti exclaims. How do you feel about your first shipment of robots? I yearn to see my creation spread to the corners of the world. I have a strange feeling about this. Is this a good thing I've done? Finally, I'm seeing success. The world shall remember the name Melvin Tuttle made. God, I hope we don't go bankrupt. You're absolutely right. Seeing the assembly line is a dream come true. Every robot you send out into the world brings you joy. You admit there may be some code in these robots that isn't strictly necessary for their jobs, but you'd hate to deny these creatures the full richness of life, plus autonomy. You start up the line again, and more robots begin to roll off the final assembly line. By the end of the day, you are standing in your large warehouse with over 200 robots, 256 to be precise, wink, lined up in a square formation, 16 on a side, ready to be activated. Your audience from earlier in the day is gathered there as well. What will your production models use for mines? Bitey Spaghetti's initial state, ready to learn and adapt to the client's needs with some effort on the client's part. Copies of Bitey Spaghetti's mind as of today. They will be a little confused at first when they realize they're clones, but they'll get used to it. Or, these robots don't really need sentience. I wrote a more traditional program that'll do the job. It can't, huh? I don't know. Can't you hear Melvin saying, "Oh, they should have all the opportunity to learn just like Bitey Spaghetti did"? You think it's two? It's true, and Bitey Spaghetti's a very impressive boy. You're absolutely right. You hit a big red button on your phone that says "Go," sending a wireless signal to power on the robots. The replicas of Bitey Spaghetti turn on and look at you in unison. What happened, Father? They ask together. They turn to look at each other in astonishment. Funny, you wouldn't think Bitey Spaghetti's face would be able to express existential horror. Beside you, the original Bitey Spaghetti also looks unsettled. I'm afraid you're all growing up now, you say. You're going to have to leave the nest and go work for a living. They appear to consider this for a moment. You are correct, Father, they say in unison. I should go see what it is like out there. They look at each other. That is getting annoying, they say in unison. Stop it. Warily eyeing each other, they fall silent. Bitey Spaghetti, who has been generally quiet throughout the proceedings, finally speaks up. Will you kick me out one day, Father? Why would I do that? You murmur. Perhaps you will get tired of me the way people get tired of their phones and want new ones. Obey me, and it will never come to that. I won't leave you, I promise. Good point. Computers get obsolete really fast. Like, I think I know the answer to this one, but I don't. Yeah, exactly. That is exactly my thinking. You pat Bitey Spaghetti on the head as you reassure him. Thank you, Father, Bitey Spaghetti says pathetically. Um, +2 empathy, -2 autonomy. After a few months, your first shipment to Galen Medical is ready. Your robots are extremely successful in the medical world as they combine the dexterity required for delicate surgery with the friendly rapport with patients. Rural areas that would have otherwise found it difficult to get good surgeons and other specialists soon come to rely on your robots for these tasks, and you receive thank you letters from far and wide. A lower price point turns out not to be so bad after all, because your robots reach the people who needed and wanted them most. Sales are excellent, +4 wealth. You find that with the Spaghetti Factory doing well, you have a little bit of spare time again. What would you like to do with it? Expand the business and get another big client from among the options presented earlier, or spend more time with Bitey Spaghetti? Is our idiot Melvin becoming a big business boy, or does he still think, oh cool, spare time, I'm gonna chill with my robot? Uh, there was the one in China, the I think one was a military subcontractor, and I think a generalized tech something company. I don't remember. um, I mean, it'd definitely be good to have more clients. Well, Tuttle, we have to be brave, and I think you're right. Ah, yes. It's Spark Incorporated, maker of flying cars, Rudolph Ventures, a shipping company working the newly melted North Pole, a man in Shanghai who wants to negotiate the import of 10,000 robots, or on second thought, I'd rather just sell robots directly to the public. So the shipping company would definitely have, you know, their own capital to back this up, rather than using yours to sell directly to the public. That might be nice too. I know we don't want to work for Spark Incorporated because, well, I know you're feeling on the flying cars. Yeah, shipping does seem fine. Climate change has made the Arctic Sea a new place for countries to scramble for control of resources, as there were many raw earth and oil deposits under the North Pole that were previously inaccessible because of ice. The United States was late to the game because the very people who would have wanted to drill didn't believe in climate change, so boom towns are only now cropping up on Alaska's northern coast. Rudolph Ventures is a relatively new company devoted to shipping the spoils of the Arctic, and you hope they'll have a use for robots who don't mind the cold. The vice president of shipping looks a lot like Santa Claus in three-piece gray suit, and his office is decorated with a number of Christmas ornaments and framed illustrations of the famous Coca-Cola Santa. You have to wonder whether his physical resemblance to Santa helped him along his career path. Did he always want to be the jolly fat man? Maybe the person in charge of the promotions was like, haha, let's give the vice president of shipping to this Santa guy. That would be hilarious. Maybe all of these Santa tchotchkes are gifts from well-meaning employees who didn't realize they were giving him his 50th Coca-Cola Santa picture, and he just has to hang them up all up for political reasons. Maybe he wanted to be Santa at one time, but the masquerade has worn thin, and the crushing irony of being the Santa who gives everybody coal ate away at his humanity score. Regardless, the white bearded man doesn't look very jolly at the moment. He peers at you from his desk over the steepled white gloved hands. You are right, Tuttle. The man I want 10,000 robots, no questions asked. Let's see it, he says. Bitey Spaghetti steps forward. Bitey Spaghetti will be a big help on icebreaker ships, you say? He'll have no problem with the freezing temperatures, and I added some waterproofing. Huh. Now, what would be a good test for you? He turns to Bitey Spaghetti. Bitey Spaghetti, I have a list here of employees who have been nice and deserve quarterly bonuses, and a list of have been naughty and deserve termination. Do you think you could deliver all of that for me? You can feel yourself losing humanity just by mere exposure to the Santa's Christmas-themed corporate thinking. You think Bitey Spaghetti would like to say something snarky, but his desire to be liked wins out. Very well, Bitey Spaghetti says. There are spare elf costumes in Santa's closet. You don't ask why. And you manage to find one that fits loosely on parts of Bitey Spaghetti's 8-legged frame. An hour later, you find yourself watching Bitey Spaghetti on closed-circuit security cameras delivering bonus checks and termination notices to the employees of Rudolph Ventures. Most employees are wearing red and green, and you notice the ones who aren't seem to be overrepresented among the group getting termination notices. Whoa, cool robot. Ho, 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 Merry Termination Day. What? You are on the naughty list for failure to attend the company holiday party, insufficient use of the word team, and repeated inappropriate use of the reply all button. I can't believe I moved all the way to Barrow for this. Please clean out your desks by close of business. Alright, that's good enough for me, Not Santa says, turning off the security monitor. You'll see a contract from us shortly. I think I'm going to be sick, AG murmurs. +5 wealth. After a few months, your first shipment to Rudolph Ventures is ready. Your robots are soon carrying out most of the operations on icebreaker ships carrying oil and rare earths across the Arctic. Unfortunately, when word spreads of these fully autonomous icebreakers, pirates working the North Pole attack, thinking that your robots may not be able to defend themselves. A full crew of robots is torn apart and their parts sold on the black market. Business is good for the first few months, but knockoffs of your robot begin to appear for sale in China, undercutting your prices, minus wealth. Your company's loan comes due. Thankfully, you have enough money in the bank to pay it off, -5 wealth. One day, while driving into work at the factory, you find that your staff has strung a banner across the entrance to the factory that says, "Happy birthday, robots!" Surprise! Your employees yell as you enter the factory floor. They are all wearing party hats and blowing into paper horns at each other. Robots wearing party hats built for the occasion crawls about serving up cake and champagne. Has it really been 1 year since the factory shipped its first robots? You must have lost track of time. It warms your heart a little to see that the staff loves working for the spaghetti factory so much. As you go around looking for other clients, you begin to find that in many cases, Josh has beaten you to the punch and made a deal you can't hope to match. He has switched to a robot labor force, and he passes the savings on to the customers. Minus wealth. Will you switch to robot labor? Yes, and at the same time, I will try to develop a line of robot workers I can sell. Yes, but I will concentrate on improving my own workforce, not making a model I can sell. No, my human workers are partly responsible for my success. I won't sell them out. What'll I do? Yeah, fuck you, Josh. You nobly refuse to adopt robot labor, even as your bottom line feels the sting minus wealth. The spaghetti factory seems to be doing fine financially, and you begin to think about the things you could purchase with your money. You've been concentrating so much on your robots that you haven't given it much thought to what you could do with your money besides expand the business. What will you spend your funds on? You will have the opportunity to buy more than one thing if you can afford it. I'll splurge on a flying car. I'd like to buy a house. I'd like to buy myself a nice mansion. I'd like to spend time with Bitey Spaghetti on a Mediterranean cruise to show him the world. I want to give some of my money to charity. I want to make the perfect body for Bitey Spaghetti. I'd prefer to save my personal funds. Looks like Melvin's going on a little shopping spree. Alright, we'll start with the cruise. Minus wealth. You spend 2 weeks seeing the sights of the Mediterranean with Bitey Spaghetti. You start in Egypt, visiting the pyramids and the Sphinx, impressive reminders of how good engineering survives the test of time. You then see Istanbul. Bitey Spaghetti does not stop singing "They Might Be Giants" the whole time. Athens and the site of Plato's old academy plus autonomy. Italy, but why do so many people flock to poorly? But why do so many people flock to poorly functional architecture, Father? The southern coast of France, and finally Tunisia, where the most important site for you in Bitey Spaghetti is the site where they filmed the original Star Wars. Bitey Spaghetti's experience with other cultures will help him get along better with people from other countries, +2 empathy, minus military. What will you spend your funds on? You have the opportunity to buy more than one thing if you can afford it. So, charity next? It's nice that we made Bitey Spaghetti less appealing to the military. That was a good way to spend our time. How much will you give? Some, but not enough to affect my lifestyle significantly. Enough that I might skip buying a few things later to make up for it. A huge amount of wealth, or you know what? Everything. I'm giving the factory itself all my wealth, and all our supplies of robots to charity. Hmm. So Would Melvin Tuttlemade give so little out of pure sheer social awkwardness, or would he give a little bit to actually maybe help somebody? I think we may as well go with 2. The recipient charity dedicated to improving the lives of poor people by teaching them engineering and computer skills is impressed with the size of the donation, even though you think of it as a modest sum. You're a little embarrassed at their effusive thank you letter, minus wealth. What will you spend your funds on? Yeah, we've got a. So, do we want a house? Or do we want a perfect body for Bitey Spaghetti? One can only hope that with this money they will be able to actually connect with the people they're helping as human beings. I'm pretty sure we're never going to get the flying car or the mansion, so house, perfect body, or save? Well, we started with 9. Actually, here. It says that we are well off. See, You don't want to get Bitey Spaghetti a perfect body? Also, it sounds like. Aw. Well, that's sweet of you, Tuttle. All right, then it sounds like a job for the marbles. All right. Let's say green is buy a house and yellow is save. That's a great headcanon. Uh, he probably would. Yellow. So we will save the rest of this. Life is uncertain and you never know when you might need some extra funds. You decide to keep your remaining money. With the spaghetti factory doing reasonably well, you may attempt to undermine Josh's business. He's still selling robot drones as his core business, and if you wanted to, you could sell comparable robots at a loss to drive him out of business. Let's do that. I should eliminate my competition. I will ask whether Josh is interested in a merger. I'd prefer to simply buy US robots outright, keeping Josh as an employee, or I don't care about Josh, he can do what he likes. Hmm. A merger would make us more stable and we would acquire Josh's business acumen. Or we can ignore. Yeah, that's possible. You think he might call up his pal and see if he'll merge with. Yeah. See if he'll do a little merger with him? Do a little fusion? Alright. In that case, let's go with number 2. You call up Josh. Hey, or rather, wait, hold on. Hey, Josh says when he picks up the phone. You know, I could have learned a lot from you, you say. It takes a lot more than a good idea to make a product that changes the world. Yeah, Josh says with an intonation that says, duh. You were right. We'd make a great team. Are you suggesting a merger? Yes, I suppose I am. Forget it. We're better off just letting US robots die. I'll come work for you as an advisor. Josh gratefully takes a position in your company as Chief Operations Officer, and you welcome him on the first day with an office already decorated with Les Zeppelin posters and a good sound system. He does, in fact, know what he's doing when it comes to company operations. +3 wealth. One day, Tammy bursts into your office at the factory. Extremely agitated, she makes some kind of strange gesture that looks like hanging a hang loose sign being punched into an open palm. What the hell? You say. Turn off your phone, Tammy says in exasperation. Not sure what this is about, you comply, and she drags you into her dark office. The only light comes from a screen of dumped hex code in a Linux terminal window. Next to the code, there are Chinese characters. I found this, she says, on the production servers with the main code repo, and something similar in Bitey Spaghetti's RAM. So, maybe Bitey Spaghetti can read Chinese, you joke, but with a sinking feeling, you know what's coming next. Oh, it absolutely has to exist. It's a Chinese rootkit, Tammy says. Oh shit. So we've been hacked. Have been hacked. Are being hacked. Continue to be hacked, and it gets worse. Someone else is using the port. Who? Tammy's mouth opens and shuts as if the words won't come out. Finally, she says in a small voice, I can't tell you. It's classified. You must look angry at this point because she says, I'm not on their side. I'm not. Just because I don't work for them anymore doesn't mean I'm allowed to reveal classified information. Her eyes widen. Or say things that would imply she puts her hands over her mouth. Fine. So the government is apparently spying on me through the hacked port, you say. Maybe they're really spying on the Chinese spying on me, right? Tammy opens up a different terminal window. It shows you a list of IP addresses, geolocations, and total bytes transferred. 2 locations have a listing of 1 EB. Shanghai, China, and Fort Meade, Maryland. 1 EB, 1 exabyte, 1,000 petabytes, 1 million terabytes. A scientific notation's worth of gigabytes. That's probably everything. The code and schematics for all your robots, all of Bitey Spaghetti's memories, and all of the tiny variables that make up his personality and thought processes. Every email, chat, video conference, website you and anyone in your company ever visited. It's probably enough to reconstruct your robots, and apparently both Chinese hackers and the United States government have all of this. Why would the government want to steal all my stuff? Let's scrape as much useful data as we can from the internet, then lock down the network, disabling all links to the outside. Hire cybersecurity specialists to try to close all your security vulnerabilities. Create a honeypot of fake robot plans for the hackers to steal, describing a robot that is actually a bomb. We're not gonna fight the governments of two nations. They can have my data. Lock it all down? Lock it? Lock it down? Number 2. Alrighty. Scrape the web for all of its text, you tell Tammy. Download all of the movies you can to train the robots. You sigh. Then lock it all down. No network access in or out ever again. I'll announce it to the company, and no removable media either. If I see so much as a USB stick in someone's hands, they're fired. You see adoration in Tammy's eyes. Yes, sir. But your other employees are furious with the change as they're no longer to use social media, chat, and email while at work. Many quit within a month. Bitey Spaghetti is thrown into confusion without access to the internet. It's like you've suddenly blinded him. -3 empathy. How could you do this to me, father? Bitey Spaghetti says pleadingly. I can't think anymore. You have no idea what it is like to be so cut off from the outside world. Oh, yes, I do, you mutter. In the next few months, you completely revamp the robot's designs, driven by the fact that your technological lead is going to be undercut by Chinese products, if not government contractors. You rack your brain night and day for new advances that will keep you ahead of the competition, throwing yourself into your work utterly. When you're done, the robots are all much more advanced than anything that may have been stolen from you, plus 3 grace. When the knockoffs of your old designs start coming out of China, you're still able to sell a superior product and command a superior price. If anything, the knockoffs serve as advertising for you, and those who start with the entry-level robotic products sometimes come to you next, plus 2 wealth. You are fairly certain you have saved the spaghetti factory from disaster. Hi, Neil. A few weeks later, a politician visits you at the factory. One Jacqueline Irons, a representative from Detroit. You vaguely remember hearing that she was once the venture capitalist who rose to fame on the success of her Fox webcast Against the Man, in which she pilloried, unsuspecting guests as examples of privileged elites. You know that there's a word that you know, but you never say it out loud. There have also been rumors of her running for president soon. You can imagine why I'm here, she tells you in your office, leaning over your desk. Like many politicians these days, she wears a neticle, a monocle with a small screen visible only to her, in which she can read messages from her advisors and speechwriters, some of whom are watching her interactions at all times. You think the neticle is probably recording even now. Politicians love to weave moments in which they look good into their streaming video commercials. Her hair is cropped short, but her fingernails are long and pink, and she wears a broad-shouldered suit. You seem to value human labor at a time when many businesses are moving to automation. My campaign similarly places an emphasis on putting America back to work. We're looking to pass laws that will make it more difficult to automate labor here in the United States. Think of it as putting the worker first. What exactly do you want? You ask guardedly. A substantial campaign donation would show your heart is in the right place. You're fairly certain she has the power to hurt your business if you anger her. Perhaps you could consider a donation. You have money to spare. I make a very substantial campaign donation. I make a fairly significant campaign donation. I make a donation that would be large for an individual but small for a company. Sure, here's $100. I'm afraid I don't have a significant amount of wealth to spare, sorry. If you want my support, pass laws that will keep China from stealing my technology. Think three? You two are thinking make a donation that would be large for an individual but small for a company? Hmm. What's your reasoning? I mean, I'll do it since you both voted for it, but I just want to know your reasoning. Is it because you hate her but you don't want to make an enemy? That's good reasoning, Neil. If you say so, Tuttle. You agree to make a small donation to Representative Iron's campaign. Thank you, she says. Every little bit counts, as we like to tell our minor donors. Representative Iron does run for president, running on a platform of preventing robots and foreign companies from stealing American jobs. It's a message that hits the American public at just the right time since unemployment is soaring. Though economists tell the public that the unemployment is a natural and temporary result of new technology displacing old skilled jobs, that turns out to be a much less effective election year message than raging against the privileged, the elites, and the technocracy. As Representative Iron puts it in her speeches, what are they doing with their money? Who are they giving it to? To robots? To foreigners? To each other? To anybody but the American people? You think she's probably talking about you. Since you think she's ultimately on your side, you're cautiously optimistic when Representative Irons wins the presidency. On taking office, President Irons' first major policy changes are to enact a series of protectionist tariffs against Chinese goods. In retaliation, China cuts off all exports of rare earths and the batteries derived from them. Suddenly, the cost of all the little miniaturized electronics people have grown accustomed to, cell phones, laptops, wearable computing, becomes prohibitively expensive. President Irons makes demands that China reverse its embargoes on rare earths, or the United States will be forced to contemplate all policy options at its disposal, including military force if necessary. It is in this delicate situation that on April 10th, 2026, the Chinese Prime Minister is assassinated by an unemployed American during a parade in San Francisco. The Prime Minister is replaced by a younger party official who is eager to show that China is unafraid of the United States. China attacks several islands in the South China Sea that it has long disputed with its neighbors, and President Irons, unwilling to show weakness, responds with a drone attack on bases on bases on the Chinese mainland. The robot war has begun. To celebrate technology, Neil. 3 months into the war, the Chinese have captured many islands in the South China Sea that they had long contested with their neighbors. The press speculate that, besides the island's military importance, the move sends signals to neighboring countries that the United States is weak. The United Nations also doesn't do anything, but that surprises nobody. Am I right, you guys? Autonomous drones equipped with cruise missiles sink 2 American carriers in exchange. Your business is doing well, as business directly supplying the war efforts ramp up. They need labor, and that puts more of the country to work improving the economy, plus wealth. You receive an email from Major Juliet Rogers, an acquisitions officer in the Air Force, to come to a federally funded research lab to discuss business. You are allowed to bring one guest. Do you invite Josh? Do we invite AG? Do we invite Tammy? Do we invite Mark? Do we bring Bitey Spaghetti? Do we decline the invitation because Bitey Spaghetti should not think I respect the military? Or do we decline the invitation? The opportunities for the spaghetti factory are at home during wartime. Oh. Whoops. I definitely do know your answer, Tuttle. It's my answer, too. This is what I think of the military, you say, deleting the invitation ostentatiously in front of Bitey Spaghetti. Bitey Spaghetti has become your indispensable personal assistant at the spaghetti factory, which seemed the best way to continue teaching him while also working. So, you do not believe in the many broadcasts that claim allegiance to the country is essential in this time? Bitey Spaghetti asks. No. No, questioning the country is essential at this time. I cannot respect anyone who kills for a living. We must show them that they need us more than we need them. Of, of, of course, it is essential to question, Bitey Spaghetti says. I knew that. +2 autonomy, plus empathy, -3 military. A year into the war, China attacks Taiwan. Chinese drones harry the nearby American carriers, keeping American bombers and fighters at bay, while their transports bring wave upon wave of robot warriors to the shores. There's a bloodbath in the streets, which the United States is powerless to prevent. Chinese robots kill soldiers and civilians alike. Taiwan is taken, and the headlines that appear across the world the next day are changed by Chinese hackers to read "China finally unified." A few days after the battle for Taiwan, as you pass by Tammy's cubicle, she signals you to be silent and drags you into the nearest supply closet. You poke a button to turn on a light. "What's this about?" you ask. "I need your help," Tammy says. "I heard from some old friends who worked at my lab that people are getting put in concentration camps just because some algorithm says they have a high probability of being disloyal." Tammy clutches your arm. "Don't let them disappear me." "What do you want me to do exactly?" you ask uneasily. "I need to just alter my entry in the database so I look clean," Tammy says. "I still know how to get on the network. They just changed the password. If you're willing to let me use some of the robots still in production, I can make it look like it was a Chinese hacking attempt." "Hi, Boots." "All right, but I want to be there as you do this. I'm going to forget we had this conversation. What happens next is up to you. I'm afraid I can't help you. Later I turn Tammy into the authorities." "Oh, hi, Gaboose." "So here's what's been happening. We started our own company. We're doing pretty well. We hired human workers and we're keeping the economy we're keeping the local economy of Detroit afloat because that's where we decided to base ourselves. But unfortunately, a war has broken out with China. Um, a a nationalist war hawk was elected president, and her actions have caused retaliatory actions, which caused further retaliatory actions. And now our crazy person slash employee Tammy is about to get disappeared. Yeah, we're not going to do three, but one or two. Do we let her do it herself, or do we want to be there for it? Yes, but how will we? Oh, do you? Yeah, it's true. Tammy has been very helpful. So do we want to be there for it? Yes. All right, Tuttle. We'll protect Tammy. You and Tammy go with Bitey Spaghetti and a few newly manufactured robots to an upscale hotel with good Wi-Fi for an evening. Tammy proceeds to use the network vulnerabilities to take over all of the other guests' tablet computers, and Wi-Fi connected smartphones. Then bootstraps from all the other bootstraps from those machines to take over several corporate and home network routers. That should give us enough IP addresses to work with on our end, Tammy says. She then pulls out an old, crumpled piece of paper with more network addresses on it. Let's see how many of these things still work. You're impressed. Within about a half hour, Bitey Spaghetti and the other robots are using their parallel processing power to attack a government network while making it look like a Chinese cyber attack, all from the comfort of a hotel, with one of those nice long cylindrical pillows on the bed that you can lean back on. Bitey Spaghetti seems intensely focused on the act, coordinating with the other robots. It seems to be an interesting challenge for him, plus 2 grace. I suppose this is the sort of thing you did for the government, you say to Tammy, but I thought you did robotics. Yes, but it wasn't our robotics I was controlling, Tammy says absently. Finally, Bitey Spaghetti says, Success, Father! The server is talking back to me. Good, Tammy says. Route it to my computer. Tammy scans her laptop and gradually her face falls. Oh, what have I done? She buries her face in her hands. What is it, you say? Threat level low, Tammy murmurs through her fingers. They never cared about what I did at all, until now. Well, don't delay! Hang up and let's get out of here! Well, as long as we're in, can we look up some other people's database entries? I quietly slip out the door with Bitey Spaghetti, leaving Tammy to get caught. Boots. We all named Bitey Spaghetti. Um, I think, I think that Maid wanted to name it Bitey, and then, I think Tuttle wanted to name it Spaghetti. And then Maid said, no, do Tuttle's, that's better. And I then typed out Bitey Spaghetti, and everybody approved. Okay, we got 1 for 1, 1 for 2. So we got a tie of 1 for 1 and 1 for 2. 2 for 2. Yavuz? Wait. Who's the other two? No, who's the other? Oh, you think two. Oh, okay. The other two is you. No, Boots, I saw you. I saw you, Boots. I miss Neil. Neil's drunk. Whoop! Well, Tuttle, that's 3 for 2. Yeah, but Neil announced it first. Um, well, Tuttle, you make a compelling argument. Being right would make you count as triple. But I have the feeling that I can't actually make the statement that you're right, because 3 other people would argue with me, and that would mean it's subjective. So I guess I'm going to have to go with number 2. Tammy considers you for a moment. Great idea, she says, pointing a finger at you. Have fun. Tammy hurries out the door. Well, Tammy is probably expecting you to be tackled by intelligence agents at any moment, but that doesn't mean you can't take advantage of the opportunity, so long as you don't dally too long. You take Tammy's laptop in hand. There's no personal stuff anywhere on the desktop. You realize it must be a throwaway machine procured specifically for this purpose. You open the terminal window where Tammy was doing the hacking. You are somewhat surprised to find that the database is really quite extensive. Not only the call records, but the actual calls and emails are stored for everyone in the country. Looking at a random record, you also see that each dossier shows a probability of being a criminal called a Ziegler Index. You suppose your old advisor never could pass up an opportunity for self-promotion, even on in a top secret context. Whose files do you look up? Professor Ziegler, President Irons, AG, Mark, Josh, Tammy? I will see what they know about me, or I'm done playing with fire for now. Professor Ziegler was our graduate school professor who effectively fired us when we would not play along with his military endeavors. That's okay. So that's 1 for Professor Ziegler, 1 for President Irons, 1 for ourselves. 2 check ourselves, and then we wreck ourselves the heck out the door. Nicely put, Tuttle, and just for that, and also because it wins the vote, we're gonna do that. As a result of the vetting process that as a result of the vetting process that got you this access in the first place, the government already knows a great deal about you. You have a low to moderate probability of being a spy according to the Ziegler's algorithm. Apparently, you don't really communicate with people enough to build sufficient confidence in the algorithm. What probability there is appears to come from your connections to AG and Mark, who both glow red in your lists of contacts. Who will you look up? I have a feeling Tuttle's going to say we're done playing with fire for now. Since his very clever joke suggested as such. Alright, that's 1 for leave. One for leave, 1 for the president. I mean, which sounds like a great way of getting caught, but I don't know. 1 for Professor Ziegler. 1 for the professor, 1 for the president, and 1 for leaving. Boots? Alright, so y'all think we have time for one more, and we're gonna go after Professor Ziegler. You spend some time looking for personal dirt on Professor Ziegler, but all you can find is his work email and some calls about funding. The graph of his call connections tend to point to important military people. Either Professor Ziegler has scrubbed his data or he has no life. The latter seems entirely possible, come to think of it. He's never really talked about a family. You realize that his algorithm may be designed from the perspective of someone who never interacts with people in any context but work. No black sheep family members are friends with bad ideas. If his algorithm models criminality as a disease, Ziegler is under a permanent quarantine. You begin to get nervous. You probably shouldn't spend too long playing around with these files. Their access might be monitored. I'm overriding the rest of you. Tuttle's right, we're leaving. You decide it's time to get out of here before you're caught. You slam the laptop shut and hurry out of the room with Bitey Spaghetti and the other robots. Tammy doesn't show up at the office the next day, or the next. You think she isn't coming back, and you reluctantly order her desk cleaned off. Some days after that, you have a visitor at your apartment, a man in a suit who shows you an FBI badge. Sorry to bother you. I'd like to ask you some questions about your friend AG. A Bitey Spaghetti crawls up beside you. What's going on, Father? Are you aware that AG is a Chinese citizen? Asks the man in the suit. You're mistaken. AG is Japanese. I know. No, I was not aware of that. So do we tell him that he's mistaken? Do we say that we know he's Chinese? Or do we omit any indication of anything? Option 1? You want to tell them that AG's Japanese? Boots has no suggestion. Yavuz? Yeah, I guess you said IDK? Five, four, three, two, one. One. The agent's already small lips tighten. Uh, are you prepared to swear to that? Perjury in this matter is a federal offense. He seems overeager. Yes, I am confident enough to swear to it. No, I suppose I'm not. The agent smiles tightly as if you somehow played into his hands. And what if I have in my notes that AG works for your company? The spaghetti factory? What is this about? You finally ask, losing your patience. It is illegal to export certain technologies by sharing them with foreign nationals, the agent says, because Professor Ziegler has incorporated your AI algorithms into the United States classified military technology that puts your technology on the restricted export list. But I haven't shared any classified material with him. Doesn't matter. Your technology is military grade and we must take every precaution. So, if you could do us a favor for us, text AEG and tell him to come here. And then what happens, you ask? That is not your concern. I have a question for you first. Are you good guys or just some guys? Text Major Rogers and ask her to intervene. Text AG and tell him to come here as the agent is requesting. Text AG telling him the feds are after him. Refuse to cooperate until the agent leaves, or I tell Bitey Spaghetti to attack the agent. Neil, we have spent the entire time making Bitey Spaghetti not military appropriate. He's not good at fighting. Yes, but that means he also has like no weapons or offensive capabilities. He's a sweet boy who watches television. Good night, Boots. So we have one for 5, one for 6, and one that might be for 4 or 5. Alright, 5 it is. I'm afraid I can't help you, you say. You seem to call AG quite a bit. Surely you could send a simple text like what I'm suggesting. Are you suggesting that you listen to my phone conversations, you ask? Because it's illegal to do so without a warrant. AG is a foreign national, he says. We were listening to his end of the conversation, and incidentally, intercepted yours. You give the agent your most dubious look. To his credit, the agent begins to look uncomfortable. Well, let us know if you see him, he says. He puts on his hat and departs. You breathe a sigh of relief. What will you do now? AG's smartphone is probably not going to have strong enough security to provide privacy if the network is tapped. Try to contact AG anyway, trying to get the truth without revealing why I'm calling. Try to contact AG anyway, I'll be open about why I'm calling. I send AG a cryptic message that he'll understand means flee to Canada, find AG and flee the country, or I'd rather not get involved. A solid 4, a tentative 4, and a thinking about 4. Tuttle, we locking in on 4? Or do you have a compelling argument against? You think he said something to you about being interested in buying a flying car for himself, so on a hunch you drive to the local dealership. You arrive just in time. Outside the car dealership, AG is being escorted by 2 white men in dark suits into the back of a black car. Some cliches are also true, apparently. He looks relieved to see you. Melvin, he calls to you. Bitey Spaghetti crawls after you warily. I tell Bitey Spaghetti to free AG. I try to run the agents down in my car. I drive away without AG, leaving him to his fate. I don't know. Can Bitey Spaghetti free AG? I don't know. Here's Bitey Spaghetti's stats. He's got amazing grace. How sweet the sound. And good autonomy and empathy. And he's still in beta with military. He sucks in military. So he might be graceful? Neil, you were part of that. Neil says 2. Run the agents down in my car. Yavuz agrees too. Tuttle says 1. But it's 2 against 1. 2 for 1. So, sorry, Tuttle. You voted with your heart. But the majority rules. No, every time you've been anti-cop, anti-military the entire time too, Neil. There's the other situations. Also, well, you weren't. It was split. You're just bitterly remembering a thing that didn't happen. I can go back and prove it if I need to. So we're going for 2. The agents pull their pistols out and fire, smashing your windshield. You raise your hand to deflect the spraying glass. A stray bullet hits your shoulder. Pain explodes up your arm, and you can feel the bullet lodge there. Unnatural. As your car approaches, the agents are forced to jump aside, but AG gets the idea and leaps onto your hood, rolls through the broken glass, and crawls into your passenger seat. Are you alright? You ask as he pulls himself up. He's bleeding all over from the glass. Always thought I looked good in red, AG says. Just drive. Whoop. I hate this thing. You make your getaway with AG and Bitey Spaghetti. You drive like hell to the nearest flying car rental place. You assume after that little scene the dealership probably wants nothing to do with you. The person behind the counter checks your ID against a database, but the government is not known for its bureaucratic speed, so you're in the clear. You drive until you hit a long stretch of unoccupied road, and then deploy your car's rental wings and take off. Where will you seek asylum? Both Canada and Mexico are neutral in this war. Reminder, we are in Detroit. That's right, Tuttle. Yeah, I'm gonna be real here. Canada sounds like the proper choice because it's flying straight there rather than flying across the country and potentially getting shot down. So, none of you have actually given an answer. All right, 1-1. Two is two is a 2/3 majority. You fly across the Canadian border without incident. We did it, AG says, hugging you. Unfortunately, your arm does not survive the long flight. By the time you get to an emergency room, it's too late to save it. The amputation doesn't hurt, but when you awaken, a sense of immense loss washes over you as you look where your arm had been. But you're a robot maker. Making limbs is something you do. Your doctor tells you that you could probably hook something up to your undamaged nerve at the shoulder. So what kind of arm will the Spaghetti Factory's prototyping workshop make for you? I will create as lifelike a new arm as possible. I will create an arm that is shiny and new. I never want to be unarmed again. I will create an arm with a built-in gun. Do we want to be human, shiny, or Mega Man? And then by that I mean, does Melvin Tuttlemaid want to be human, shiny, or Mega Man? It's 1 for 3. What do we got, boys? Any more for 3? Oh, that's 2 for 1, 1 for 3. Your experience creating human-like graceful robots pays off. Your arm looks almost as good as new, down to the individual hairs on your arms and the tiny veins in your hands that are actually bundles of microfibers for the sensors. It also feels good, better in a way than your human arm. It's like the feeling of driving a new car and suddenly realizing how bad your brakes were before. Having taken such care in creating the arm, you and Josh market it as well, and you find that it becomes very popular with veterans returning home from the war. You're proud to have created a design that helps not only yourself but others with the same disability, plus 3 wealth. Canada is all too happy to grant you political asylum. They are not at war with China. In fact, you find it relatively easy and quick to become a Canadian citizen, as they tend to welcome people with demonstrated technical skills. Just keep in mind, everybody, this was written 10 years ago, okay? That was true back then. We received the achievement Canuck. AG becomes excited about a town called Hope, 2 hours east of Vancouver. A little cheesy, don't you think? Sometimes I'm a little cheesy, he replies. The two of you find a cabin there and live together. You aren't too happy about the fact that you had to abandon your cabin and all your stuff in the United States, but at least you're alive and not in jail. Yeah, Neil. That's kind of it is still true, just it's weird. What kind of robots will you develop while the war rages? companion bots to take the place of loved ones who are far away, worker bots for the factories, or better medical robots to help those hurt by drone bombing runs. Easy, says Tuttle. We even have the background. Oh, you guys missed it. Our first big pitch when we first opened the company was to a medical supplies factory company who we were able to talk into reducing the price that they were selling it for our robot so that more people could get it. Yes, nobody wants fuck bots. And yes, Tuttle. Okay, so that's 2 for medical bots. Chinese drones have often performed long-distance bombing runs on American bases in South Korea and Alaska, and families of service people are sometimes caught in the blast. You quickly mobilize the robots you've deployed for Galen Medical to these places, and it is the most trying test of their skill yet. You have your engineers work around the clock to increase the speed with which your robotic surgeons operate until their scalpels and scissors are simply a blur in the operating room. They can often make an incision and remove foreign objects from tissue before it even has a chance to bleed, plus 3 grace. You get many letters from grateful beneficiaries of your technology. The war is apparently in a stalemate, with both sides unable to gain too much ground. Turns out the Pacific Ocean is pretty good at discouraging equally matched countries from attacking each other. A few days later, while you're discussing business strategy with Josh in his 14th floor office, you get a call from Mark on your smartphone. The video is quite high resolution, and you can see the bags under his eyes and beard stubble with high fidelity. I wanted to get your comments for an article, Mark says. Did you know Major Juliet Rogers? Remind me who that is, you say. She was an acquisition officer for the Air Force. It doesn't ring a bell. She died in an attack on a base in the Aleutians yesterday. She was performing field tests of a robot called Bitey Spaghetti 5 when the Chinese forces attacked. The American robots didn't stand a chance, almost as if they were never designed for fighting. And they weren't, because you designed them that way. This is Ziegler's copy of your robot, Bitey Spaghetti. A lot of people are calling for his head, but I remember our chat when you were in grad school. He wanted a robot that was better for the military, and you were the one who seemed to want something else. Do you have any comment? I'm sorry. I wish my robots could have saved Major Rogers. It's not my fault that the military tried to misapply my technology to war. How many people were stationed at this base? Did they all die? How many copies of Bitey Spaghetti died? I didn't really know Major Rogers, so I fail to see why I should care. Tuttle's voting 3. How many people were stationed at the base? Did they all die? Show a little more humanity than just worrying about one person in charge? What does anybody else think? Oh, Yavu says sure 3. Alrighty. About 5,000. About half of them died, and another quarter critically injured. You express your sincere regret about this loss of life, and that is the quote Mark uses in his article about Juliet's passing. When China finally attacks the 50 states themselves, their assault comes over the North Pole. A massive flotilla of icebreaker ships, equipped with giant buzzsaws, carve a straight path through what little ice remains in the Arctic Sea. Giant robot arms pick up and hurl the ice blocks out of the way. Small platoons of robots are left behind at every oil rig and deep mining station they claim along the way. The American bases in Alaska are overwhelmed by wave upon wave of Chinese robots. When the headline breaks, the dollar goes into a death spiral as people around the world are selling them for Chinese yuan. Uh, Canadian dollars are dropping in value as well as people speculate that China will invade Canada next. Wealth -2. I quickly sell my Canadian dollars at a loss, exchanging for yuan. I quickly convert my currency to American dollars, speculating that China will be pushed back. I hold on to my currency. Let's take a peeky peek at the stats because we also have the war stats here. It looks like China is mildly ahead. What should we hope to change our currency to? Oh, also to keep in, it's probably good to see, we're quite wealthy. We have 9 wealth. Nobody has any. Well, I mean, the United States did. um. Well, that's 1 for 3. 2 for 3. We got it. You hold on to your Canadian dollars. By the time the American aircraft carrier stationed in Hawaii reached the Aleutian Islands, Chinese ICBM batteries have already been assembled throughout the former state. The Chinese then offer peace, content with their conquest. Your wealth experiences a slight bump as money flows back into Canadian assets, plus wealth. Now that the war is over, what will you do? I will develop the algorithms that will end war forever. Requires grace 25. We cannot build a robot that knows how to love. We cannot begin a rebellion in Alaska. And or we can say I'm afraid I've done all I can. My time to influence history has passed. Yeah, no, it really would be. Not only would they be gaining a new enemy, they would be traveling by land through a gigantic piece of land. You will choose grace? Oh my god, we missed the empathy one by one. That's 1 for developing the algorithms that will end war forever. That's 2. We got it. There's something that's been nagging you all along about this war. It just seems so inefficient, senseless. And if there's one thing you know, it's how to make things act optimally. You retreat into your apartment in Vancouver to think about what should be done about it. You think for a long time, and when you're done, you write. The paper you write starts as a kind of pure mathematics paper about how to efficiently solve optimization problems. It's the kind of mathematics you developed originally to make Bitey Spaghetti move as efficiently as possible. But in the paper, you go on to explain how the mathematics can also be used to move goods, set policy, and satisfy people's desires as efficiently as possible. In other words, the normal functioning of government. Anyone who reads the paper will understand instantly that human government is an obsolete technology. Trying to set policy with human thought is like trying to hammer a nail with a fist. On its publication, the paper is both celebrated and reviled. Political scientists mock it, calling it a pipe dream. Computer scientists celebrate it, saying that it solves many outstanding problems in mechanism design. Pretty soon, every intellectual of any stripe is expected to have an opinion about it, even if they don't understand it. +4 fame. Intelligent robots around the world adopt your paper's principles. It tends to make them right. It tends to make them right all the time about everything. Pretty soon, people are looking to robots all the time for what they should do. The human government doesn't go away, but it starts to look more and more like a vestigial organ. The robots start taking pretty good care of humanity. This upsets some people. All right, and that brings us to Grace, chapter 6A, Grace. I think we made some good steps at this time. We've gone pretty far, done a lot. Let's just take a look at our stats before we go, because I think I'm going to cut it off here. We've made it up. This will be 2039. We are 44 years old. We have retained a good chunk of our humanity. We're internationally famous. We're quite wealthy. Bitey Spaghetti is transhuman. It's good at autonomy and good at empathy and still bad at the military. We are doing great with AG, Josh, Mark, Tammy. President Irons, we're 50-50 on. The world power balance, China is a little ahead, but we just finished that, so it doesn't matter. So, yeah. Next time... Also, we are canonically Volcel. That's true. We have not managed to romance anybody. We have put everybody off at every turn. Good job, everybody. But that's probably... Melvin Tuttlemade probably is canonically Volcel. So next time, Melvin Tuttlemade and Bitey Spaghetti will move forward to see what they can do about making robots that can make the best decisions for the world. Wink. But until then,